which was controlled largely by the Yoruba people. So where would you now write your history that will be published? Because they were controlling the media. Eventually, 2004 happened, Obarida of Blessed Memory made a public declaration. Then, social media happened. Social media is not a controlled, you cannot boss anybody to a tight corner. So the Benin started to use the social media to speak. That history that the Yorubas have said is not wrong, absolutely rubbish. The hatred started. These people doesn't hate us. They just hate our gods. Yes. We are now beginning to tell our stories. What was not there long time before now. Now, you come to the Igbos, they don't hate us. It's just that we are the only reason why they cannot get Biafra.
Thanks for clicking on this channel. Please subscribe to FO's blog history, and click on the notification button so that whenever we upload a new video you will be notified. The Igbos are angry with the Benins because we are the reason they cannot get Biafra, says Izoduwa. Izoduwa responds to some issues raised by some speakers at the Great Benin Descendants Stakeholders Conference that the Benins are not taking strong measures to deal with some miscreants on social media throwing tantrums on the Benin throne and the palace. And the Biafran agitators who are trying to annex those ethnic groups in rivers and delta state that trace their origin to the Great Benin Kingdom. Also the Yorubas who are distorting our history. According to him, what they said about the problems of unity, protection, distorting of Benin history, and disrespect for the Benin throne is not that bad, that the problems have been there for almost 100 years. But however, it will be tackled and resolved. The Benins have been docile all this while, until Great Benin Descendants emerged in 2017. There was no effort by the Benins to assemble their people scattered all over Nigeria and beyond. Mr. Izoduwa stated that we started the unification of Great Benin Descendants in 2017. He also talked about Benin-Ifa relationship, the most controversial history in sub-Sahara Africa. Some historical narratives were made, asserted by the Yorubas. It took us 40 years before we even had the mind to start responding to a bastardized history of ours. It was a gradual process. Until 2004 when Oba Aridawa of blessed memory published a book, I Remain Your Obedient Servant, at the University of Ibadan and publicly declared that Oduduwa you are celebrating is our son Ikalatarhan. That was an official signature of the historical war between the Benin and Yoruba, he said. The Yorubas do not hate us but our guts to begin to tell our history. Let's come to the Igbos. Igbos don't hate us but they are angry with us because we are the reason they cannot get Biafra. The greatest hindrance they have is not the Nigerian government but the Benin people. Hence they must buy some people, including your Edo brothers and sisters to tear Benin's history apart. They have bought some Ezans to be distorting Benin's history. Our ancestors did not know that a language would become a weapon for colonialization. They believed in the ideology of letting the Ikar people speak Ikar and others speak their language because if you don't speak your language you are lost, he added. Please watch and listen to him.
I would have wanted to extensively react to my brother. But like Comrade Edigin said, it is not that bad. In short, the problem we are facing now has been there for almost 100 years. It is not, we are not the cause of the problem. We are the solution. Exactly. Before now, the Benins were docile. We're not talking. I can guarantee you that till GBD emerged in 2017, there was no effort. One, I'm a student of history. There is no single effort heard anywhere whereby the Benins had it in mind to try and assemble their people together. Yes. We started it in 2017. So, when we are talking about the Benin-Ife relationship, one of the most controversial history in sub-Saharan Africa. There were some historical narratives that were made, asserted by the Yorubas. It took us 40 years before we even had the mind to start responding to a really bastardized history. It was a gradual process. Until 2004, when Obarede of blessed memory, I published a book, I Remain Your Obedient Servant, where he delivered a lecture at the University of Ibadan and publicly declared that your Oduduwa that you are talking about is our son in Caladeram. That was the official signature of an historical war between the Benins and Yorubas, because it was a unidirectional issue. The Yorubas were the one just talking. The Benins were not responding. Then some Benins, like the Eyaris in the 70s, the likes of the Oronsai in the 80s, then the likes of the Arkansas in the 90s, who published a work called Ikaladeran in the early 2000s. Then we begin to have Professor O.S.B. Omorike, who also tried to counter that. Words that Jacob Wadea has written in the 30s, where a lot of them were historically wrong. We didn't correct it because first, at that time, there was one single printing press in Nigeria. It was Ibadan Printing Press, which was controlled largely by the Yoruba people. So where would you now write your history that will be published? Because they were controlling the media. Eventually, 2004 happened, Obarede of blessed memory made a public declaration. Then, social media happened. Social media is not a controlled, you cannot boss anybody to a tight corner. So the Benin started to use the social media to speak. That history that the Yorubas have said is not wrong, absolutely rubbish. The hatred started. These people doesn't hate us. They just hate our gods.
Yes.
We are now beginning to tell our stories. What was not there long time before now. Now, you come to the Igbos, they don't hate us. It's just that we are the only reason why they cannot get Biafra. So, you will have to impose your ideas on the Benin for you to get your Biafra. So a war is declared on the Benin people. The greatest setback that they have is not Nigerian government. It is the Benin people.
Yes.
So that means they must buy everybody. Even the people you think that they are Benin brothers, a lot of them are being bought every day.
Yes,
So to tear the history apart. That is why they have been contacting a lot of our people in Esanland.
Yes.
To start to give the narratives that they are not part of us.
You're right.
But we need to send a message to them. Right? The concept, we must understand that division cannot get us anywhere. We have to have our backs. And some part of our history that was Aori, that was not really good, we must not try to correct them. The supremacist aspect of our history must be laid low. The pride of the Benin man is based on some 3-4 cardinal points. Our patriotism to the land, our ability to speak truth at all times, and Benins of the old had integrity. These core values over the years have depreciated. To rise up, we must not see any Benin descendant or any Benin person in the context Benin. I'm not referring to currently Edo South. In short, the concept of Edo South is a British sort of governmental administration.
Yes.
There wasn't Edo South, there wasn't Edo North, there wasn't boundaries of our people. We're just called Benin people at one point in history. So we want to take off those senatorial boundaries, state boundaries that the British created. and now say that we do not have boundaries with Delta State. We don't have boundaries with River State. We are just one people flowing in one direction. So, like my brother said, it is not that bad. All right, we are waking up. We must follow that tenacity that it is time for the great Benin to rise again. And we must now look for practical ways. That is why we are here. Of everything that has been said by all our people, I know of it all. I know that we have issues. If the GBD as a group do not know that these issues are bound, there is no essence to call for this conference. This conference is now to say, okay, so that you shouldn't say we don't know. Tell us what the problems are. When you not tell us what the problems are, the question will not remain, what are the way forward? Systematically, we lost our language to our neighbors. Systematically, we lost our names to our neighbors. Then systematically, we need to get back our names. We need to get back our language. One of the greatest things about Awolowo did for the Yorubas was bringing different ethnic groups together under an umbrella and giving them one language to unify them, which was the Oyo language. Otherwise, an Ijebu man does not understand the language of the Ilaje. An Ilaje man does not understand the language of the Awori. The Awori does not understand the language of Ibadan. Ibadan does not understand the language of the Oyo. But because Oyo was a very powerful empire at that time, he brought them together and told them to take the language of the Oyo people, which you call the Yoruba language today. These are ancestrally different people, but today we all call them Yoruba people. Language is the greatest instrument of unity. Yes. So, now we're not talking about people who have the same ancestry, the same. Why can't we now begin to adopt a unilateral language that unifies all of us? Why can't we now begin to see that bearing other people's tribal names is making us look like them? You cannot tell me as a Benin man if I bear a Mecca today that an Igbo man will not see me as an Igbo man. That's true. So we need to start correcting all of that. In terms of names and in terms of language, we're going to unite our people in ideas that we must agree today. In terms of whether it is in terms of names, in terms of language. That is why if you go to the earliest names of the Obis of Isolu, they were bearing pure Benin names. What has happened? I don't know whether everyone understands.
Yes.
They were bearing all pure Benin names. Yes. What has happened? They are still Benin people. They must start to re-embrace their Beninness by trying to now understand that there are more beautiful names from their own language back home than from the language of their neighbors. Language is one of the strongest instruments of unity. Coincidentally, our ancestors, imperial ancestors of the world, didn't know. I will not blame them. We have a popular parable in Benin. I will say, Kagaze, do Izoduwa Zudu, Amazewe Mutawi. The Benins had an imperial concept that when I conquer, for example, I just give them leadership. It is humanity. After conquering you and giving you leadership, I should not take your existence from you, your language. So, in all the territories the Benins got to, probably conquered or inhabited, they took language as a secondary thought of colonization. But they never knew that is actually the primary thought of colonization. How come that the Igbos who never won the Benins in any war ever recorded in history, nor the Yorubas, because I always say it's a fun fact. Tell me any war ever fought. Benins fought multiple wars with the Yorubas. Benins fought multiple wars with the Igbos. Tell me any of these wars that Benins were defeated. No, that's a fun fact. Yes. But how come that their languages is not very close to the very center of our land? Neglect. We neglected because we never knew language is an instrument of unity. So we must now look at critically into language. We must now look at critically into our names, which are very, very vital. And like I said, we have a whole lot of works to do. But I assure you, we need to start a little bit by bit. And we don't have to rush the entire process. The process you talk that those stupid idiots on social media, it is a natural process. When we get things right, we'll naturally take care of. Those are the least of our worries. Yes. Let us say what they want to say. And again, let me make this correction. Because I'm a good student of history. Obayawa the second is not weak. It's not weak. It's just that a time has not really brought him to actually take actions when actions are needed. I can categorically tell you, most of those things you hear, he doesn't even get to hear them. He doesn't even know that things about social media. He's not on social media. I can tell you that for free. He does not. A man at a phone. If anybody calls him, how do I move on? He picks the call and that's it. So he doesn't know what's going on social media. But some of us, for what reasons, there are some reasons, we are trying to let him know that this is what we need to do. I particularly have spoken extensively, more than 5 hours, off camera, please, off camera.
Off camera.
Okay.